think the first thing that can come through change are people believing in each other, sharing and sitting back and looking at some of the different experiences. Everybody doesn't have to be an architect or an engineer, but there are architects and engineers and financial people who live here. But then there are also people here who are plumbers or assistants, electricians' assistants and things like that also can point out things that we need to look at. This community now is going through a major transition because the population of the city has died down. Home ownership here used to be very high, and it's not now. And people need to realize it's not the people on the stage that make the difference, it's the people who are in the audience that really make the difference.
It started out, my mother wanted a ride to one of her meetings, and I went inside, and before the night was out, I was running for a committeeman spot against one of the people that I most respected in the world, and he pulled me aside afterwards and he told me, I beat you this time, and he said, and you should have come to me in the first place, and I would have stepped aside for you, but he said, I'll show you how to win the next time. He said, but I wanted to teach you this lesson. So as it turned out, he did. And I won the next time I came out for committeeman. I won by as many votes as I lost against him the first time. So his information and mentoring helped me. And from that time, I started running for politics in the neighborhood.
Allocation of justice is a huge responsibility, but you certainly have to temper the legal part with the human factor as well. And all people want is an opportunity to be heard. They don't want a tyrant. They don't want someone with their mind already made up. They want somebody who's going to listen to them and make a decision based on what they've heard. I've had people who have lost their cases and have come to me and thought that they were treated fairly. So it's not that they always have to win. They just want an opportunity to be heard. And that's the important thing. The rule of law certainly applies. You can preserve an issue at this level all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court if they deem it important enough to take a listen at it. But the community issues is what I'm really good at, and that's what I do. And they created these courts just so folks don't have to wait for months and months to get downtown in front of a judge. The judge is right here in these community courts. And you should be from the community because you're dealing with community issues. And sometimes you're going to know the folks. That's why the court was created, for you to hear issues, even involving people that you know, and just make the best call that you can. And be fair. That's important, be fair.
Well, we are a part of the community, and if we don't care about where we live, then why would anybody else? And that's what I feel is the most important thing about being involved in our community. There have been several times in my life where people wanted to sit down and have a chat with me to find out what my life as a black person was. Well, what do you say? It's not like we're from some other planet. So the only way that anyone can really understand others is by being involved together. So no matter what the issue, if you have a common interest, that's what brings people together. Not because of your race or because you're a woman or because you're this or you're that. It's your issues, your common interests. That's what brings you together. And so as advocacy, that's pretty much what we do. You find something to work on together and then you move forward because it benefits so many others.
Faith-based starts a foundation for people learning how to believe in other people, but also learning how to believe in themselves. There's always a story about your arms may be too short to box with God or to feed yourself, but if everybody reaches over and helps feed everybody else, nobody fails. Everybody succeeds.
Well, faith-based organizations are very important. Not everyone grasps it in the same way. Churches believe in Christian values, or even if you're Muslim, it doesn't really matter what your faith is, but they believe in reaching out to others. And that's what religion is about, by doing for others. And so the organizations take on various interests of not only their congregations, but in their communities. And that's so key, very critical, because there are those who would work against folks who, and I don't want to talk about names, but this is a very political year, but there are those who don't understand at all because they've never experienced it, never had to be around it. Their whole life is totally different. So if we don't have organizations, faith-based or community, to speak up for others and to show and to give the examples and work together, I don't know where we'd be.
Well, community is important because you get to know the people of your community, and you get to become a recognized face in the community. Growing up in the public housing community, my mom and dad made sure that we had a sense of community, recognizing where you live, where you came from, and never forgetting that. You know, she always had us volunteering in the community, particularly on election day, and we also volunteered at the church, which was right in our community. And having a sense of community provides ownership. Yeah, because if you love your community, then you're going to do what you can to invest in it to make it a better place.
I had a mother that was on all the early civil rights marches and for better, for job opportunities, not better, because Pittsburgh wasn't kind to the minority population as far as jobs were concerned. So, but she was the mover in our family. My dad was a hard-working guy that he would get up in the morning and go out, work till it got dark, and then he would come home. But she was the one that was a activist, community activist. She was out there just about every march, So that's how my community involvement got started. I was hoping that during my mother's lifetime that I would have accomplished being elected to my present position, but at the time she had suffered from stroke, a cerebral hemorrhage, and then Alzheimer's set in after that. So I don't know whether she ever realized it or not, that I was elected.
I think that I have always had this need. If I looked around anywhere, if I was involved in anything or a part of something, and I looked around and I may not have seen anyone like me, or someone who just wasn't speaking up on my behalf or that of others, that my little mouth would kind of go. And sometimes that kind of got me into places that I never would have thought, but I once tagged, I didn't step down.
If you involve yourself in something that's bigger than yourself, then what it does, it takes the focus off of you. And oftentimes, young people are focused on themselves. I mean, we have these corporations who are figuring out a way how to captivate someone's time. When I was a child, we had 24 hours in a day to function. Now that I'm an adult, we still have the same 24 hours, but we're trying to squeeze all of these other things into that same 24 hours in each day. So sometimes we have to, put the phones down unless it's going to advance a good cause or a worthy idea. So it's very important to have something in front of you that you're reaching for each and every day. And it's very important to take the focus off of yourself and put it on something else, something that's worthwhile, something that's meaningful. something that's going to help the community, which will ultimately help yourself?
First time I volunteered, I guess, was being a Cub Scout. I got a patch for it, and that was a big reward for me to get a patch for it when you had to go through that. And we all had, in this area, it was a phenomenal. It was always a great mix. When I grew up in Homewood, after we moved here, and you just have to be able to reach out. So it's just helping someone else. I learned, help the lady across the street. Well, people inspired me, but they also rewarded me with serving 30 years there. And in a sense, it was my last 6 or 7 years, it was all about them. You're looking at a politician who never had a press conference in 30 years. I always just took the time, instead of wasting my staff's time and say, this is what great we're doing or something else we're doing, we would go out and just do it.